viewers, and welcome back to another edition of the Social Development Outlook for today, Tuesday, August 2020. I'm your host, Tyrone Davis, and just to remind you that this program is hosted and coordinated by the Ministry of Social Development, and every single week we strive really hard to highlight the movers and shakers within this ministry and other related departments. At this point in time, we'll take our first break and be right back.
Welcome to Nevis.
It's easy to believe that all Caribbean islands are the same until you visit Nevis.
Nevis is the Caribbean of a bygone era.
You will enjoy a most intimate vacation on Nevis. You're only a stranger here once.
We offer exclusive and barefoot luxury stays.
With only 400 hotel rooms, our island may be exclusive.
But the warm, genuine and friendly welcome is just everywhere.
We look forward to meeting you.
Visit nevisisland.com.
Well, I'm back, and to start off tonight's program, we go to Brownhill, where we interviewed Mr. Mikey Williams about beekeeping.
Good day, viewers, and we are here currently in a very precarious situation, as can be seen, where we are surrounded by bees, and we have here on my left Mr. Mikey Williams, one of our very own local beekeepers, and it is one of the very most intriguing profession there is, I think. And I'm very delighted to be a part of this interview to learn as much as possible when it comes to beekeeping. So, Mr. Williams, the first question for you is, how long have you been doing this?
Well, I'm doing this for about 47 years.
Wow, that's definitely older than I am and quite a bit more. So that's a very, very long time. Wow, 47 years. Now, the next question I have for you, Mr. William, is what inspired you in the first place to even take up such a real profession?
Well, to be honest, in my young days coming up, I always liked to be around bees. I just, was so fascinated by dealing with bees, catching them, putting them in bottles, And there was an old man by the name of Mr. Thibault. We used to call him the honeyman. He talked to me and he told me, Mike, you could get into the bees with me. I said, okay, no problem. And man, we travel a lot of bush. I don't know where we not travel to look for honeybee hives. And, it's a thing that I love. I leave this country, been away for a long time, come back and get myself back into it. And I mean, it's doing wonders for me.
All right then. Now, I heard you mentioned that the individual who you used to be with back then had a nickname, Mr. Honey. Do you have one?
Oh, just Mikey the Bee Man.
Just Mikey the Bee Man. Oh, okay then. No, so you indicated just now that you went away. Am I to believe that you went away and did the same thing overseas?
No, I could not do this overseas because I was working on boat from England. I was sailing.
Okay.
And then I had 2 years and one from Canada. And,
Okay.
I came back and I just picked back up my profession because it's what I love.
Okay. So let me follow you because I want to be on point with everything when it comes to this. So before you went away, how long were you doing this beekeeping?
Well, the beekeeping wasn't like how it is now. Mm-hmm. We used to go like in the wild.
Yes.
And check for the wild hives. And at them time, I never had nothing suit like this.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have just maybe a sweater and make up a pasteboard box, with a little piece of sifter wire at the front. And there's where I used to work it from until I get to know, about these suits.
Yes.
And I get to know about these suits maybe about 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, I really get myself up and going.
Yes. And they are very protective gears because as can be seen, the bees are all around and I feel very safe my first time entering into a beehive area. So continue with the questions. Would you consider this profession a lucrative profession? Is it a profession that garners a good amount of income or is something that is struggling somewhat?
Yeah, it could be very, very productive, especially around this time. We just leaving the dry season, coming into the rainy season, where you find a lot of the trees going to be blossoming, and the bees them would have, pollen, pollen to work with, and then by the bees them have the pollen, I will be getting a lot of honey.
We are dealing with the theoretical aspect of it now. In a few minutes, we'll be going more into the practical aspect of it. More going forward. So, how do you get these bees trapped in here? Is it something you use to attract them and then you conceal them, or they come off of their own? Nature allows them to come in a position off of their own and then you capitalize on it. How do you get them assembled where you want them?
Something like people would call me and tell me, Mike, I have a hive in my house, in something. Mm-hmm. And, I would go, walk with the box, look for the queen, catch the queen, put the queen in, train a bit of bees, and the bees will send off a message to let the others know that the queen is here. So you find like, when I say the others from the same hive.
Yes.
And they will just come and they start swarming in because the queen, you know, without the queen, you don't have a hive.
Oh, so wherever the queen goes, the others go.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And if in the event that the queen dies, what happens?
If the queen dies, there is another queen.
There is another queen?
They will raise another
Wow.
queen.
Very intelligent
Raise another queen,
species.
yeah.
All right then. So we see you have something that looks like to me looks like a brush for the hair, but it can't be for that. And you know, a whole heap of nice utensils and other looking stuff here. Could you please expound on what some of these are used for?
This brush is a brush that when I take the frames out from the boxes and there's a lot of bees on, I just use the brush because it's nice and soft. This would damage the bees, so I just use this to brush the bees off from the frames. So, you know, instead I have to walk with the bees on the frame, I just use the brush them off and put them into a box.
What do you call the frame?
The frames, you will see when we get in there.
Okay.
You will see when we get in there, you know.
And what is this for?
This is called a hive tool.
Yes.
This hive tool.
Hold it up with the camera a little more so they
This
can
hive
see.
tool.
Yes.
When I open that box, normally the bees then will stick like the frames them to each other. And to separate them, I use a hive tool, put it between and pry it. And then take them out. Okay, let's move on. The smoker.
Yes.
This is called a smoker. I use the smoke to move away the bees from the frames because, you know, bees don't really like the smoke like that. Some people say junk them, but no, you don't.
Yeah,
all that you do is to just move them away. That is all the smoke is about.
Okay. And besides locally, because I presume that you sell honey locally, do you sell honey regionally or internationally?
Yeah, I do. I send honey all over to St. Croix, all up to England. Yeah, various places.
England?
Yeah.
So if I am to go into Valuemart or Ramsar, any one of those stores, and I see a bunch of bee, how do I know that this bee was a product of Mikey Williams?
Well, what happened?
Labeled Mikey?
I don't normally sell like Valuemart and those places like honey because I have so many local people to deal with and a few hotels that I don't have the time to really deal with Valuemart because, you know, the prices, I mean, the prices that I'm going to be selling Valuemart the honey for. I mean, I don't think it makes much sense, you know.
I feel understandable.
So I prefer to sell, you know, more local.
And what are the prices? Give me a price range. I presume it's not one set price. It might be vary on the bottle or the size.
Well, I only sell one bottle. I used to sell the smaller ones at one time, but it's better for whosoever are going to be purchasing honey from me to buy the big bottles because it's going to turn out to be plenty cheaper. The small bottles, if I was to be selling the small bottles, I would have been selling one for like about $25. But the big bottle, if you buy the big bottle, it costs $60. And you could get like 4 of the small ones from the big one. Say, best you buy the big one for $60 instead of have to buy one for $25. The small one, sir.
Yes, good economics business. Good. So now, as regards the suit, I feel very secured here. I mean, I always thought that the individuals who go into beehives are completely a little crazy, you know, completely crazy. But I see now that it is a very sane move because the gears are so protective that you have no reason to have any kind of fear or intimidation. Question is, where are these suits homemade or they were ordered overseas?
These was ordered from overseas. Overseas, yeah.
Overseas.
I used to purchase a lot of stuff from Kelly, but I find it easier to go onto, you know, like different websites and, you know, search for what I'm looking for and then purchase from there.
And you find it to be cheaper?
Yeah, plenty cheaper, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, so Mr. Williams, I see it looks as though there are 2 separate boxes here. I'm not certain if they are separated, but it appears that way from the external side of it. Could you please explain what's the difference between both boxes, if there is any difference?
Okay, the difference between both boxes, one of these boxes, which is the big one on the below, is called a super box, brood box. Down in this area is where the queen is living. And the box on the top.
Sorry, alone?
No, all the rest bees are living there too.
Okay, yes.
But down this way, you do like the lane to get the young ones and then, you know, have swarms going off.
Yes.
And if you really check very carefully, this box is called a brood box. And this one on the top is called a super box. And between both boxes, you see there's a metal frame which is called an excluder. Here is it.
And what does that do? The
This excluder is to stop the queen from going up into the super box. Because if the queen gets into the super box, up there is where you find like the workers got to make the honey. And if the queen get between this excluder and it get up into the super box, it's going to lay eggs and spoil the honey on the top. So to avoid the queen getting up there, I have to use the excluder between the brood box and the super box to stop the queen from going up. And the workers will go on the top, which is into the super box and make the honey.
So the workers are able to get on top through the excluder because they are smaller?
They are smaller. They are smaller.
Okay.
The queen cannot pass through the excluder. If the queen pass through the excluder, that means there's a wider spacing in the excluder that causes the queen to go up. But otherwise than that, the queen cannot pass. It's only the workers. The drone bees cannot pass through. Because you have the drone bees, you have the workers, and you have the queen.
So what are the drone bees? I mean, I know I'll be asking questions because, as I said, this is a very intriguing and captivating topic here. What are the drone bees?
The drone bees, those are what mate with the queen.
So she have her selected few that she mates with?
You will select.
Selected, yes.
Maybe a 9 or 7, which you want to mate with her.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, they are very fortunate.
And when it's time for mating,
Yes.
she's going to leave the box with maybe 7 or 9 drone bees.
Yeah.
And you're going to go way up in the sky.
Yeah.
Maybe almost where those jets are going up there.
Really?
Yeah. Because you see, you got to go that high because you find like you have like these birds which snap them.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
And when they go up there mate, all that mate with the queen, after they finish mating, they die.
Wow. So they're not so lucky as I thought then.
So only the queen come back. But after a certain time, they know exactly when the queen is supposed to be coming back.
Yeah.
After a certain time and the queen ain't come back, then the well is gone.
Oh, so they start nurturing.
They start nurturing, right.
The workers start nurturing.
They start nurturing and others, yeah.
Very industrious and intelligent little creatures.
Okay, now we're going to be raising the cover from the top of the box. And I'm going to be getting inside to see exactly what is happening in there.
Oh my goodness. They're all here. And as it is right now, it doesn't appear as though the honey are ready, right? What's the process like to get the honey ready? Because they seem a bit dry. I can see the combs.
No, they are not dry. As we go in,
okay.
I would explain to you
then.
about when this is going to be ready.
All right. So here comes, the sort of trepidatious part where I think the bees from the smoke will be really swarming out at us now.
Okay, now, if you look very carefully, you can see the honey in the cells. If you look very carefully, you can see the honey in the cells. You see it?
Yes, I do. Yes,
okay. Now these cells are full. They're going to cap them. And when they're finished cap them, we call it the seal. They're going to seal the whole of these, this side and that side. If you look, you can see. They already started. If you look, you can see, start capping already.
Oh, that's what you refer to as capping.
Yeah.
Turn it
okay,
round, turn it round to the camera as well so you can see the capping.
The capping area. If you look very carefully, you could watch some of the cells and realize that they already start capping. But in another 5 days, this will be ready.
Okay.
So, and you could actually feel the weight.
Yes, good bit of weight here. So it definitely has to be, embedded with honey, flooded with honey. Oh my God.
We'll take a break and be right back with our feature presentation for this evening.
Hi, I'm King Hollywood, the reigning Calypso King of Nevis. I have a message for you. Be safe, protect yourself and others. Cover your cough and sneeze, and remember, catch it, bin it, and clean it.
Stay updated by following the Health Promotion Unit on Facebook and Instagram or contact us at 469-8010.
Well, I'm back, and for a feature presentation this evening, we go to Gingerland, where we interviewed Mr. Curtis Liebert about being a blacksmith.
Good morning, Curtis.
Yes.
The Department of Community Development decided that we are going to still have our focus on the community this year, because of the COVID-19. It's a little different, but this year we are focusing on what we call traditional, extraordinary jobs in the community.
My name is Curtis Liebert. But the way how I come about blacksmith, right? Some years ago, in the time at the Venerable Archdeacon Blunt, when people were taking communion at the altar, in those days, the altar was a little too short, so when they get up from the communion, when they kneel, their foot does slip. So Father Blunt decided that he going to extend the communion rail at the altar, right? I in my life never see a blacksmith work. Never hear something named blacksmith. But then I get a job who work with Norman Tyson. And those men were cutting stones to put on the altar. So I said to myself, I want a hammer too. Because in those days, rather than stand up as an apprentice and watch people work, I want to work too rather than stand up and they pay you. So one day I find an old piece of steel look like something like a hammer. I wasn't so successful. I tried to bore it. I didn't get through. And from that time, I try, but everything did not come at one time. And then a few people who know about blacksmith give me advice. Well, from time to time I end up make chipping mason hammer. I could make hook for haps and hook for windows. I make for lupinacci. I make for different people. Sometimes when I go in town, in St. because people just do carpenters. To work, right? I make the haps, the staple. But whenever you see I go and I do work, sometimes I don't even remember, and I look around. Right? There is where, when I see something I make, I say that is my making. Well, over at the Anglican Church, every time there is a hurricane by the door, the wind does come and break off the back door. But one day I decide to make some haps and I brace myself against the door. And I make the haps, pin them in, and thank God he hold the door in the last hurricane. He don't break it off. Well, this guy named Barrett at Craddock Road, when I wasn't so good in making the hammers them, right? One time I carry a hammer by him, and in the days he can ask, who make this? My brother or me. So when I tell him, we was impressed and he become great friend. So it's a kind of hard job, so that is how I come by it. But this isn't really the first time I come with blacksmith. Sometimes as I get older, sometimes I don't feel like even I got things to do, but that was how I come by that blacksmith.
So tell me, how long have you been doing this job?
Maybe around 1993. At that time I was just trying to tamper, Did not even know what I was doing,
Okay, so you have been doing that job for about 27 years.
And maybe even longer.
Oh, maybe even longer. Yeah. Do you think that it is a profitable job?
Well, be honest with you, it's a hard job. It's not every day I would do it. Because you see, when you do blacksmith, right, you got to get a forge. maybe sometime a bellows or something, and the thing blood or fire, I don't have them things. But if you go and Google, you would see them man doing blacksmith work, maybe how to make a sword, how to make an axe. You just type it in and you will see the same work.
Okay, thank you. So I would assume that you would have made hammers for people in this community?
Sure, mason hammer. Even cattle swivel. Dog swivel for pit bull. Those things. Well, how I come to make the cattle swivel before, right? One time Sonny by Waters had cattle in those days. And I never used to make cattle swivel, so he tell me, make some cattle swivel for him. And he said, listen, I going to pay you. At the time, $30 he pay me. And he said, when the people come, make sure they pay me $30.
So were you paid $30 for each swivel?
Yes, at that time. That was before 1999.
So how much a cattle swivel might cost right now if you were to make a cattle swivel?
Maybe about $45.
Oh, $45. So it has not increased much, but it's still profitable. And how long would it take you to make, let's say, a cattle swivel? Because we still have a lot of cattle around. I'm sure people are coming by.
Maybe. Well, what you see, once I light the fire, right? Sometimes I might not get. If I put 6 of the steel in the fire, you see, according to the size of the steel, once the fire red hot, it don't take too much, but sometimes it might take 1 time, 2 times, because in the morning I might start it this afternoon until maybe I get it done.
Okay, so what do you use to start your? Do you use wood?
Sometimes coal, sometimes wood. You know, but you got to get this bright flame and it got to be burning. But with the forge, when you spin it anything, right, in 10 minutes time you get it. Those barrett, right, in Craddock Road, sometimes they just take the hard shell from the coconut just to pieces. Sometimes they sharpen people hammer, and when they turn up that forge, it sharpen it not much because it's a force of air.
Okay, so Curtis, I'm looking that you have some things on the ground there. Could you explain what they are, what they're used for?
Well, this is a cold chisel. Well, this is a hammer. I was trying to make it, right? But then the next step, when I put it on the iron and it red hot, I take it and with me striking hammer and I hit it until it come flat. But then after it come flat, right, the last thing I do, I file it. And then after I file it, I put it back in the fire till it's red hot. And then I dip it in the water. But then when I dip it in the water, I dip this, the head. But then when I look, sometimes it comes shine. And then when this has turned blue, I focus on it. And then sometimes I cool it down. But there are certain steel like here, axle. If you cool it too fast, it might just crack. So sometimes when it's hot, you just lay cool and maybe you put on some oil on it and then thing. It cool.
Okay. And so what is this one right here?
Well, it's a cold chisel. But what others do, I just bore my hammer with this first, right? And then when it bore through, I take something with a punch, which I have in there, and then it open back and expand it like this.
You think blacksmith is something that is needed in the community, a job that is still...
Sure. In other parts of the world, that is what they do, make parts.
So we decided that you will be featured because of the exceptional work that you have been doing in the community. I think you're probably the only blacksmith in Gingerland. Yes. Correct me if I'm
Nobody else doing that.
Nobody else is doing that. And so we are grateful that you are still doing that kind of work, and we are hoping in the future that you may be able to pass it on to future generation.
Okay. Well, that's our package for this evening. I'm your host, Tyrone Davis, wishing you a pleasant night.